All right, we'll give people a few minutes to roll in. So let's just take a moment and sink into our environment. Use your senses to anchor yourself exactly where you are. What if you just let yourself be done? Done scrambling. Done trying to figure everything out. What if you just let what is support you? This moment that you can pick up with your five senses and the vast backdrop of still silence that permeates all of it. What if you just let yourself be done with reaching outside of that? Done with trying to twist and conjure your way into some new flash of light just to pass the time. If you just let all that trying, striving, just kind of fall to the floor. Because if you don't, it never ends. You think you're striving to get somewhere, but as someone who has striven a lot, I can tell you when you get there, it doesn't feel like an end. There's always the next thing. Whatever happiness you think it's going to bring you, it only lasts really only very briefly, and only when you're looking at it through a specific lens and conjuring that happiness into the space. Everyone here has been around the block enough times to experience that and to know that it's never worked. It's never brought any lasting happiness. There's no thing you've ever scrambled for that has finally made you safe, that has finally made you impermeable, that has finally satiated you. It's never worked. So what if you just be done? The doorway into that is letting this be enough. Sure, Suki, we can talk about that. Release all the trying and the struggle so that you can really be with what's left. And what's left is you. A you that has been cramped and distorted for an entire lifetime. A you that's finally able to breathe. That's why you come here, isn't it? You stumble into that space and you can breathe. You know, there's the using of techniques to slip into moments of that space. But then there's the just stopping. Just letting it fall off of you. And not caring what's left. Just being present for it. Let's spend a little time in that space. Use your senses. Notice your environment. Exactly as it is. Without pushing or pulling at it. Notice the feelings in your body exactly as they are, without hoping for them to be different. In other words, just open up and be here as you. The self-existent you. The you that doesn't require a parade of thoughts to remain in existence. let's just give ourselves to that for a while. And then Suki will talk about your topic. Just exist. And let it be enough. Your life won't fall apart. It'll gain an impeccable sense of timing because it'll be responding to your authenticity. Now stay in this space. And I'm going to address Suki's question. Suki's asked if we can talk about love. Which, as a question, is actually not separate from what we've been talking about. It only looks separate because it's one of the most overused, misunderstood words in spirituality. To really understand love, we have to first understand what it isn't. Because love gets so tangled into our sense of need that a lot of what we think is love is really just neediness. We place people in certain roles, and they fulfill those roles, and we have some karmic need to be fulfilled by that role, and so we can't bear to lose them. They validate some aspect of our personality self that was perhaps not validated when we were younger. And so we feel this intense pull to them that we think is love. And you know what? Love is probably in the mix, but most of what you're feeling isn't love. Most of what you're feeling is the relief of a promise of a need that is going to be met. Then there's the performative love that I've experienced on most of the spiritual paths I've been on. A beaming of energy from a teacher's eyes, a gushing of heart energy. I've seen people meet with teachers like that and come away just, I felt loved for the first time, truly unconditionally loved for the first time. Those are usually people visiting the teacher. I'm usually the one living with the teacher. And I can tell you from observation that unconditional love was not really on the menu. At least not in the way they thought. When the conditions weren't met, I would see them turn on people. But people are so in need of believing that there's this perfect love, that if you can mock it up for them, they'll buy it without much thought. But that's not love either. It's just a movement of energy. It's attentiveness. In that moment, they might feel like they're giving to you, and they might care about you. A lot of times, too, it's It's more about them when they're gushing love or energy. It's more about the role that they're trying to play than the legitimate need of the person in front of them. Then there's the people who give themselves in service as a practice. And again, it's performative. I saw a lot of that too in my years. And they usually have very loving looks on their faces and go to bed that night feeling like they've given and given and given. I don't know that that's love either, though. True service, I mean true willingness to act for the good of others, to serve the good of the whole, carries love. But the majority of people are not being in service, they're performing being in service. And that's not love. And the teacher who gets their needs met for that will reinforce it because those people do a lot of work for them. So this word love, it's very, very complex. At the end of the day, all there really is resonant, intelligent, completed stillness. That feeling that you get when you really let go of everything, and suddenly life can move through you without all the energetic obstacles. That feeling is love. It's not gushy. It can be warm. But that feeling is love. When you turn to somebody else and you flow with them in a moment and you let go of all of your obstacles, that feeling is love. When you can flow with them and they can flow back with you, that love meets and magnifies. And something really important in a relationship grows when that can happen, because that consciousness gets magnified, and so it nurtures everything. That experience is love. When you're in that space and you look at what's in front of you, you see things that you can do to be of use, and you flow right into them and do that for another person or for society. That flow of action is love. So love is the energy that moves everything in this universe. Love is even the energy that animates the stories of your life. Even the horrible stories are animated by love. But the power of that love, you lose your conscious control over what it's animating. And so you end up just living it out. But without that force, there'd be no stories, there'd be no life, there'd be no heartbeat, there'd be no sperm meeting an egg. Love is the unqualified abundance that every single human is bathing in every minute of their life. The experience of love is the degree to which you can remove your blocks from feeling the abundance that you are permeated by. That's love. So it's something a lot cleaner, a lot bigger, and a lot simpler than what most people think of when they think of love. It's something you can say yes to in a moment. It's something you can give and never run out of. But in a way, it's something that can't be given. I don't think anybody can really give you love if you don't have it already. I mean, we've all had people like that in our life, haven't we? That you just wanted them to feel the good intent that you had for them, the safety that you were providing them. But that just wasn't something they were capable of experiencing just yet. They had too many blocks. Even if you were with a spouse that was unpleasant, if you're somebody who is capable of experiencing love, if you're someone who can release those blockages and open up and recognize the abundance of what's around you, you would experience that unpleasantness as life teaching you, as life caring enough to provide you with reflections in the mirror, reflections of what you're putting out or reflections of what you're tolerating. And see in it the opportunity to expand. So I don't think it's something that can really be given. I think it's something we all have, and we either allow ourselves to experience it or we block it in some way. I think if you ever see a spiritual teacher with a picture on the back of a book and gushing love from their eyes, you're probably in the wrong place. It doesn't look like that. It looks like clarity, willingness, the gushing from the eyes is actually an attempt to control, to manipulate perception, probably to sell more books. Does that answer any of your question? It was kind of a broad question.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, good. I think it's an important question. I don't know if I've ever talked about it before. It's a word I don't use much in spiritual life because it's so misunderstood. And it also creates really annoying students because they walk around with these looks on their faces that are just the opposite of the real thing. I lived on a monastery where you would just see people performing that look so much, or performing service. It just seemed like so much effort for one more snare of the ego, you know? But you're surrounded in it all the time. All the time. The whole game of life is that everything is designed to keep you from seeing it. And it happens to all of us. It happens to every teacher I've ever had. You know, it's tricky. And it should be. If that door is always open, there's no reason to be here. So we kind of go in and out of having that ability to experience real love. You know, that's not to say it doesn't filter through smaller vehicles, like nurturing. But even that often has a lot of control attached to it. At the end of the day, the only control you really have is the ability to stop trying to control everything. And when you do that, it all just flows in. Everything you were trying to make happen just happens independent of anything you do. All kinds of just doors open. Life just builds. It's not always easy, but that's because a lot of what it's giving you are the exact lessons you need in order to finally be done with some piece of karma that you're hanging on to. But it all happens in perfect timing, just right for you. All your beautiful, horrible issues get lit up just perfectly, lock and key, when you stop manipulating and stop conjuring. It couldn't be any more perfect, even in its ugliest moment. And all of that is love. It's nothing personal, but it's love. Love is really nothing personal. Love is what's left when you let go of the personal. people won't even often describe it as love. When they see it in you, they'll just know that things are better when you enter the room, that problems get solved, that things get clear. It can be quite stark, really. All right, let's go back into meditation. Make yourself available to this moment. And just let the abundance of life be. Just notice it permeating the space. You have air to breathe. You have an environment to be. Lessons to learn. And access to the stillness. Stop telling life what it isn't and let it show you what it is. Stop telling life what it isn't and let it show you what it is. There's one more thing we need to talk about. Because a lot of times when people talk about love, what they're really talking about is joy. Which is something that comes when you are open and willing to receive the love that's around you. And that joy moves through you and it comes out of you and is experienced by others as a lovingness. That's an experience that happens when you're well resourced. That's an experience that happens when you feel like your needs are met now and a little bit into the future. It's not a hunter-gatherer kind of experience. It's an experience of already having enough that you don't have to hunt or gather for a while. That kind of kindness and flow. It's a luxury for the well-resourced. If you want to experience that more, you have to notice how well-resourced you are. You have to drop any story about not having what you need. So again, it's about recognizing what's already around you and letting it be enough. Truly letting it be enough. That looks different for every person. For me, when I don't feel well-resourced, it's almost always that the tasks in my life have made me feel like I don't have any time. And so I step into timelessness. Or I sit down with my calendar and I figure out where everything is going to go so that I can see that there's time. And if there isn't time, then I'd have to delegate so that there's time. For other people, it may be upset over how they feel somebody is failing to love them. And in that scenario, you need to realize that you don't need their love to be happy. That love is not something they can give you anyways. Even if they're feeling it, if you're not able to receive it, you're not going to experience it. And so by acknowledging that, you bring the locus of control closer to yourself. Instead of putting that experience into the hands of some incompetent other, you take it back into your own hands. And you open yourself up to the love and abundance that is all around you in every moment. Again, it's about recognizing that you're well-resourced. Lack of being adequately resourced, in one form or another, is always a story. Even when you have a legitimate deficit, the ability to make changes in your life means that you can fill that deficit. So just the fact that you can move your body and breathe for almost everybody, means that they are going to be well resourced enough to be able to see a road forward where their needs are met. It'll be harder for some people. It'll be a bigger leap for some people. But the story of lack isn't doing anybody any favors. Some have more and some have less. But when you stop comparing, that issue disappears. And what you have, if you choose to claim it, is the power to dream up a life. And when you can take that responsibility, then you'll be resourced enough to open up and experience the love that's around you. Just had to get that out there before the class came to a close. Are there any questions about any of that before we end for the night? All right, guys. I'll be here next Thursday. Have a good week.
Thanks, Liam.
Thank you.